I mentioned like a couple months ago that I'm focusing more on my mobility. And it's great. I love doing volume and I love doing for myself, I love doing hypertrophy, but there also comes a time when you have to make choices. There's a lot of choices during your day, but also with program design and what you want, there's a time when you have to make choices and you have to prioritize certain adaptations. And what a lot of people do is they do programs with the expectation of getting multiple adaptations when you should be focusing on less adaptations, like less variables that you're trying to adjust and focus more on less, to get more out of your training. A lot of people are doing, hey, I want to get big and then I also want to get cut and I also want to get bigger quad sweep and I also want to build my glutes and I want to get abs. When you're doing like 10 different things in your mind, you can't focus. Think about like why medical professionals do specializations. Even when you're a general practitioner, you specialize in being a general practitioner and mastering how you can deliver better quality care to your patients. Ideally, I'm not saying the fucking healthcare system is perfect, rather sick care. You know my beliefs on that, but the whole principle is you want someone has a hand problem, they go to their doctor, they refer them to a hand specialist, a foot specialist, a orthopedist, whatever it is. You have a specification. They go and they send you, and that's good. You don't want your general practitioner. You want them to be able to say, okay, it seems like you have a neurological issue or this issue. They send you to a specialist that for someone that does neurological issues or hand issues or back issues, right? And that's how that works. For better or for worse, people specify or have specificity in training that way, and they get paid more. I mean, it's rewarded for having expertise. So think about this in terms of doing your training. If you practice one instrument, you'll get really good at that one instrument. You practice a bunch of them, you're going to get decent or good. I mean, there's some people that are just brilliant musicians, but you'll get good and better at all the instruments, but you might not excel and be fantastic at any of them. So jack of all trades, master of none, kind of like the CrossFit approach. You don't really master anything. You put yourself at high risk, you do high speed movements, and that defeats and diminishes general mastery and then increases the risk because you're doing highly technical movements with a heavy load to and beyond exhaustion in combination with all these different training modalities, and it just exponentially increases the risk. I don't care how well you're trained. And I'm not saying that doesn't have any application. I'm not saying I hate CrossFit, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I go after CrossFit the same as I go after vegans. I don't care if you do it, but I have fun with it because any type of extreme and, you know, closed-minded approach with training, with nutrition, with anything, you miss so much shit. You just focus so fucking much on one extreme thing, like cutting out all animal products or only doing this type of training or only it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. It's not for the general population. And I'm not saying that any of these diets or training approaches can't be executed better. But of course, if you have better teaching and better experience and better preparation, you can do a lot of things. There really is no wrong movement for the body. It depends on the person and it depends on how that body is prepared for that movement. You have people that bend, that do all sorts of different shit because they're prepared for it, and maybe genetically or based on years and years of training, they have gotten to the point where they can handle whatever the activity or the execution is without injury. You have someone that's never done it before and they jump into it and they could hurt their shoulder or hurt their back, depending on what it is. I'm just speaking generalities. It just makes sense. It's what you're prepared for. So that being said, because I've been trying to focus on more mobility and yoga for myself, I had a realization, and it's really hard to back off on the volume for me. It's very hard to back off from the weights for me. So as much as I like to do more volume for arm training, as much as I like to do more volume for all these other body parts, I have to cut down on my focus. If I really want to excel and switch over from, to improve. A lot of you are coming. How many of you practice yoga regularly? If you're in Swole X, if you're a member, I mean, of course you're practicing yoga regularly. If you aren't, you are missing out one of the best parts of Swole X. But most of you that are members, you're doing that. So I'm not really worried about you, but drop in the comments below all the same. If you're an X member, drop XFam. And yes, you practice yoga. So do you practice yoga? Are you a member of Swole X and you practice yoga? If not, you could still if you're a member, just write down in the comments below if you're a member and if you practice yoga. So most members will, because we have a massive yoga studio and it's a huge focus. But if I want to improve, for me, think about that. I can't just keep doing bodybuilding, fitness, lifting heavy the way I was and then just add yoga, because that's extra stress. Even if it's restorative, it's still extra time, it's extra effort, but I'm not changing, like I'm not compromising with my strength training. And a lot of people do strength training. A lot of people do strength training, and a lot of people do strength training past when they should. And I don't mean age-wise, but I mean they don't compromise in order to improve with mobility. So if you only have X amount of time, X amount of effort, and your body is going to adapt to the stress you put under it, if you're continuing to put excessive stress and I'm crushing my muscles, I'm only going to get so much mobility. Like I can practice mobility training and yoga, but if I'm causing a lot of trauma with resistance training, it's going to be hard to make a lot of progress with mobility. Does that make sense? Because if the muscles are already always being damaged and broken down and crushed, and then I'm going to a yoga class and I'm, stretching, or I'm doing something inside Swole X, because I do the classes myself too, including to the ones I teach. But then if I'm bending, and that's like you're stretching muscles that are damaged. And if you provide too much trauma, it might actually cause too much conflict. And I'm not going to be making as much progress with mobility as I want to. So your body's going to adapt to whatever you subject it to the most. So if you subject it more to yoga and pull back from the overload and the bodybuilding and the fitness and the lifting, then you'll make more progress for mobility. You'll make more progress with yoga. You'll make more progress with your range of motion and those types of adaptations, because you are using more of your time. You're exposing your body more to that type of exercise, that type of movement. So in order to do that, I'm not necessarily lifting with as much volume. So we talked about the other day, training frequency and volume. If you're training a body part more often per week, you're going to decrease the amount of volume, the amount of sets and reps that you do and resistance that you do on each of those workouts. If you're training a body part twice a week, you're not crushing it to oblivion with 100 sets twice a week. Let's say you were doing 30 sets once a week, you might be doing 15 sets or 16 or 20 sets, just throwing a random number out there. Or if you normally do 20 sets, you might be doing 10 sets on one day, or 15 sets on one day, and then 15 sets on the next day. You're doing more volume, a little bit more volume overall, but you're splitting it up into 2 days, or you're doing 10 on 2 separate days, or 12 or 13. So you're getting, let's say, 6 total sets extra in a week, but you're doing it more frequently. So there's different ways to do it, and you want to balance it out that way. So for me, I'm keeping my training frequency with resistance training. However, I am backing off on the volume and doing more of a combination. So instead of just doing, let's say, chest and triceps, or just chest, or chest and back, and doing arms separately, I'm combining them more. So I'm doing more push. I'm doing more, let's say, chest, maybe some shoulders, maybe some anterior deltoid, maybe some stabilizing movements, maybe a few sets of triceps, and then I'm doing back and some pull, and maybe some middle deltoid, some posterior deltoid, maybe some back stabilizer stuff, and some biceps. And I'm also doing legs. So it's kind of like a 3-day rotation with a lot of yoga, 3-4 days a week of yoga. And it could be more, it could be 5 days a week of training, depending on how the split goes or when I go to a class. But I usually try not to do more than 2 days in a row of strength training, generally at this point. Now, just to keep in mind, I have a lot of results. I have a lot of progress. I'm not starting training. So I don't have any goals or aspirations of like, I'm trying to get so much bigger. I know what it takes to get bigger. I don't know if I have it in me or does the desire. You really need a lot of desire. So I'm very reasonable with what I say I want and what I'm allowing myself to want and what I know that it takes. It takes a lot. It's a lot of stress on the body from a consumption standpoint. It's hard to eat that much food to grow. Really. It really fucking is. It's taxing. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of just time eating. You have to fucking eat. That takes time. And I don't have a lot of time I want to spend eating. I like eating once or twice a day. I like having a restricted eating window. I like drinking my coffee during the day and maybe having, a big dinner that goes for 2 or 3 hours where I'm just kind of eating for a couple hours. I really don't eat during the day. I wouldn't say I do intermittent fasting. I really don't. I just eat the bulk of my calories in the evening later on. So I might have bulletproof coffee, or I might have a snack or a sweet potato if I go to the gym in the afternoon, or in the morning. I might have a little something after, but I really don't eat. Like if I have steak and stuff, I do that later in the day. I don't have it earlier. It saves time It's one less thing to think about. And I kind of get that like feasting aspect. So I don't overeat in that sense. Okay. It's kind of like it's a great way. It can be good and bad for people that have binge eating, that have issues with overconsumption. That's where intermittent fasting can be dangerous. It can help and it can also hurt. It depends on the person. It depends on the execution. That's why quality of food is so important. If you're eating quality food, it's much harder to exceed your caloric needs because, in terms of like if you're trying to lose weight or manage your weight, if you're trying to bulk up, you're going to be stuffing your face. You're going to feel full no matter what. So you're going to have to eat multiple times during the day if you want to get in all those calories over the course of your day, your consumption period. So it's not recommended. If you're bulking, intermittent fasting is really not recommended. But if you are trying to manage your weight more, you don't want to count calories, you don't want to fucking do that, you want to eat more intuitively, okay, that's down the road. You need to really teach your body what quality is. You need to teach your body how to feel good and bad foods. You need to know what foods react best with your body. You need to understand what foods are the worst for your body. If you can handle certain dairy products, maybe all dairy doesn't agree with you. Maybe you can have butter. Maybe you can have ghee. Maybe yogurt is okay, but having a glass of milk is terrible and ice cream fucks your world up. You need to figure these things out. And I'm not always, yes, I agree, Josh. I'm not fucking my face with food either. And I like fucking my face with food. I really do. I like eating a lot of food. But when I come to my kitchen in the evening and I make a steak, and if I have a sweet potato or I have some vegetables or asparagus or broccoli and I have some bone broth and it's like, I'll eat, I'm fucking full. I'm done. I might have some fruit afterwards, but I don't want dessert. I don't want ice cream. I don't want garbage. I don't want a beer. I'm fucking full because I pounded a lot of great fucking quality foods, tons of healthy fats, tons of quality protein. I'm satisfied. You eat a fucking 15-ounce ribeye steak with a potato, maybe some vegetables, get the fuck out of here. You don't want food. The last thing I want to do is swallow something else. It's satisfying. It's so much better to have a restricted eating window. I like saying restricted eating window more than intermittent fasting because people have these connotations with fasting. People misinterpret that, and that's such a broad concept. It's like, I like to exercise. Intermittent fasting can be also all different types of intermittent fasting. There's fasting, there's intermittent fasting. What's all fish live in the ocean? Not everything that lives in the ocean are fish. It's like kind of, okay, it's a general buzzword, but you shouldn't be eating all fucking day. I really don't think so. I don't think you should be eating all day. I don't think humans should be eating all fucking day. I think most people should be within like a 6 to 8 hour eating window, really. And you might want to call that intermittent fasting. I call that not fucking your face with food all day. That's really it. You're just not fucking your face all day. Thanks for watching, fam. Make sure to subscribe to the Daily Swole podcast on YouTube so you can catch the live streams every single day.